podcast you cheer for. Sneakers, business, talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.
And welcome back to the Soul Material Podcast, the podcast you cheer for. I'm your man, the OGEL.
All right, it's T Mark, the Street Shark.
And today we have a very special episode as we celebrate the retirement of the 19-year veteran, future NBA Hall of Famer, Mr. Carmelo Anthony. And T Mark, the Street Shark, and myself have followed this young man since the very beginning. I'm talking about grassroots. This means so much to me because he's one of my all-time ballers. High school, he kept elevating his game. So we're not necessarily going to do a timeline, but since we have the total history of Melo since the very beginning, I'm going to have T Mark, the Street Shark, who's a hooper himself, to just peel back a little bit of layers to go back to the beginning, and we'll go from there. But we'll talk about the kicks, the moments, everything Carmelo Anthony. Salute to one of the greatest scorers and hoopers of all time.
All right. Carmelo Anthony. That's what we're doing. I guess definitely had to pay homage just because, one, he's done so much, because, just being having roots in Baltimore, it's closer to DMV, just our cousins up the road. So just being able to see him and develop from a youngster and then get to where he's at, and then always giving back to the community and doing so many different philanthropic things just for Baltimore as well. So just wanted to start kind of actually with a 6 degrees of separation on how, I actually was semi-introduced to just like who this kid was, you know what I mean? So long before, I'm talking like Oak Hill days, you know what I mean? Because that was, even before the LeBron hype, and when they got matched up together, like I had heard about Carmelo Anthony before I had heard about LeBron James. It probably took me at least another year, in between to catch on to LeBron, and then I was like, but with Carmelo, when I was coming up, I played against Billy Elam. And Billy Elam was the point guard at DeMatha.
Yes, sir.
And that was my matchup my senior year. So he followed Keith Bogans and Joe Forte. Like, that was the year before me. So just think about everything. If we ever told basketball stories or whatever, that was the class ahead of me for DeMatha. And then there was Billy Elam. I think the other star on that team was Travis Garrison that went to University of Maryland. So that was a team that I had to match up against. And held my own. We had it was like, Morgan Wooten was still coaching at that time, so I was the first class for Joe Wooten at Bishop O'Connell. So it was like father versus son. So it was so much media, local media hype, and everything. So every time that we played, because we had a home and away, we played exhibition games too and everything like that. So it was definitely some extra attention on all that. So needless to say, Billy goes on to be the point guard Carmelo's freshman year. That was he was the point guard for the Syracuse national championship team. So I just, following Billy, because he ended up going to, Oak Hill as well for a short stint. So that's why just following what everybody else was doing and then seeing what team he was on. And I was like, oh, hold on, you at, what's this other kid, number 22? You know what I'm saying? Because, that's, had my name and everything like that. Like Anthony, I was like, who was that? And then found out that he had went to Townsend Catholic or whatever, and then transferred down. I was like, oh, okay. Let's see what's up with this dude. And then I just keep hearing from there, and then it's like going. So my freshman year, I'm watching them over at Syracuse, and I'm sitting there like, I'm talking college now, and I was like, wow. And then they just boom, 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 go all the way. And I was just sitting there like, wow, because to be honest with you, it was competition and everything like that. Like with Billy, he was so solid. You know what I mean? Like I remember playing against other dudes that was like Cliff Hawkins or somebody like that. Like that, he was way harder to play against. You know what I'm saying? When it was around that time, but just with the legend of Melo started there, and then starting to do more. Some of the street ball as well when that lingers around. With the Berry Farms, and then everything that's going on up in Townsend, up in Maryland, and everything like that, and Bowie, some of the summer leagues that they have going on up there. So just connecting the dots all the way. So I just love how Melo, stayed, true to the course. And I was always a Syracuse fan as well. That was always one of my teams. I like Jim Boeheim. So just the way that that team, it was like one of those teams you just followed a little bit throughout the season. But you didn't have the Final Four expectations, let alone the championship. But then it was just like, yeah, he just needs to go. And then he signed with Jordan Brand, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's the brand of champions. And he just stayed true.
So put a stamp on that, Shark, because let's dig real quick as far as the significance of him signing to Jordan Brand directly out of Syracuse in college. Was he the first? Because Jordan Brand at that time was more about the veterans who were established. I think about Vin Baker and the Vindicates and Eddie Jones, and I think about Derek Anderson. And it was almost like they proved themselves in the league. Wasn't Melo the first to come strictly out of college or high school to be an amateur to get a Jordan Brand deal?
No, I think it was like, wouldn't that be like Darius Miles or somebody like that, with Quentin Richardson one day before Melo?
Yeah.
But
either way, signature, he had basically signature out of the gate.
No, but Melo didn't have signature out of the gate. He was the face of the like the 0.5, because
Gotcha.
It was actually the what was it, the 17 that MJ just played in before he retired, and then it was like Melo, so it was like 17.5, and then he adopted his first signature was the 1.5, and then the 5.5, where they masked some stuff up, and then went on to like real from scratch silhouettes for him. So they like transitioned him when they started, you know what I mean? But like, I think it was the championship, it was the pedigree, it was the freshman winning the championship, type mentality for MJ to bring Melo under his wing. I think that's what was. It was like you won the championship, you know what I mean? So like MJ, he got to respect you to something like that, for him to really lock in on a youngster. But and then it goes into the what if of the draft of like, who's the, he was the third pick, you know what I mean? So those Detroit Pistons, they could have.
Shame on Joe Dumars.
They could have won another. What they weren't thinking about what they, Darko Milicic or whatever his name is. Like what Carmelo Anthony. But I guess just coming off of the Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace, and like where was the young guy going to fit in? I think that at that time the story is that they were thinking more long term with like Tayshaun Prince. Like how is he going to take his spot? But you know what I mean? It was just like. Wait, what?
And not only that, Sharp.
What game was you watching?
Not only that, Sharp, before the youngins who may be listening and unaware, I think we were at the peak of the potential of the foreign player. So I remember it may have been Harrison Barnes that said if my last name was something he said that was foreign, I probably would have been a top 5 pick, but he ended up being later, I think possibly a second round pick, because that was the joke that if you were foreign, even with our Wizards, with Vesley and a few of our picks that were kind of questionable. So that was the era of foreign potential. They go into the lottery, and Melo got bumped. Literally,
yeah, was really the era of when everyone really just tried to copy the Spurs and just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, then, and then it was just like, ooh, and you got Dirk Nowitzki, and then there's like. You know what I mean? So everyone's like reaching now for the next hot thing, and they just couldn't do it. There's no Tony Kukocs and Drazen Petrovic. Like there's like you would know, you know what I mean? Like so they're trying to like reach and get the youngster and roll the dice and see if they can somebody can come up on that. So that's why like Darko Milicic was young and but it was like one of those were you like dominating in your league or whatever, question mark, over the national champion, like what I'm saying, like isn't it like the Christian Laettner rule, you know what I mean? That like how come you don't get no love? It's not like Christian Laettner, he was a top 5 pick anyway, but just saying, they put him on a dream team, like just to fill the national college player, roster spot where they could have had Chris Webber for, and that would have been way better for that squad. But at the end of the day, yeah, like what do we, what can you do? What can you do? But yeah, with Melo, like that's why the whole Jordan brand, it fit the theme, it fit his entry point, and then like him going to Denver, then it was just like, all right, now Denver, you get to have your own superstar, and he took him to the playoffs the first year. But like if you look at his numbers was like almost the exact same as LeBron when LeBron won the Rookie of the Year. Like I actually thought that that was going to be like the only other time that you could do the Grant Hill, Jason Kidd Rookie of the Year. What I mean? It was just like, but LeBron didn't take his team to the playoffs. And Melo did. I thought the winning get you, but again, that was more the end of the era when they punished the youngster, where they didn't really like, all that hype that LeBron came in with, and it was the same class. Like, and then so Melo was like, imagine Melo got to come in by himself though, without everybody else too. But
and it was Kobe that once said that it was a much older league too. So when you talk about the youngins and them kind of getting their hand slapped, no matter how good they were, how talented they were, the league was different too. The way it was a older league, definitely.
Yeah, they didn't embrace you like the way that they embrace you now. Or yeah, matter of fact, it was still that some of that rite of passage, like you can't have all this attention and you ain't never played a game and this and this. I don't care.
You can't be an all-star your rookie year.
Yeah. Like the fact that Jamal McGlure was the spot over LeBron is like the craziest thing like in history that you look at, but it was just that was the time you really actually didn't even argue it that bad back then, but it was just like when you think about it, it's like really yeah, so Melo, he just had some great moments, and once he got a good team, and then he was like, and then he got AI on his squad too, you know what I mean? Like they went, and that was like the peak Denver, when they got J.R. Smith to come on up from New Orleans, had the Birdman,
Kenyon Martin
flying around, Kenyon Martin, the enforcer, like, and then like, little Andre Miller and all those other little pieces that they had with George Karl up there, like they really had a squad. You know what I'm saying? I actually knew someone that had worked for their team as well when early in my career too. And I was always trying to stay connected. And he was always just talking about how crazy it was, the atmosphere up there, and the fans support him. So, but, and then the whole New York era, you know what I mean? Like Melo in the Garden, like that's even more crazy. And like, then it was just the Knicks being the Knicks. So that was his homecoming tour. You know what I'm saying? From the other side of his lineage of his upbringing from New York. So like that was just like, and then you're in the Garden. That's what I kind of felt like that was that patch of Jordan Melos during the Knicks time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those were some of the best functioning ones. May not have been the best, silhouettes all the way around, but like performance wise, I feel like some of those were some of the best performance, because he had like the zoom and the double zoom pods in the forefoot, and then they was doing them. He was, they was putting the flight plates like from the Jordan signatures. Like his was like one of the first ones to get the new flight plates, and those the whatever the Jordan version of the zooms are as well. So like the responsiveness over the Melos, I always loved playing in a lot of Melos. To be honest with you.
But man, we're talking about a 10-time All-Star. I mean, a 10-time All-NBA, 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. I'm sorry. And I wanted to peel back some layers now because we are the podcast you cheer for. We're going to talk about some of that sneaker business, talking some of my favorite models. And first thing that comes to mind, me being just a purist of Jordan original silhouettes, that birthday Melo 3 that looked like it was like the first cousin of the Jordan 2 that came out on his birthday on, I think it was 2007, May 29th. And that was during the time where you had the laser on the shoe too. So they had the laser on the side. And that shoe was just dope to me. So if there was a quote unquote, dare if I say a 2-point whatever, that was definitely it. So that was the first Melo model I remember that really caught my attention that I had to have. Although I still had the original 2s as well, retros. That was one of the shoes that I remember saying, yo, these are dope. So I thought the 0.5s were cool. I really liked the 1.5s, but my first purchase, as far as the Melo line, was that M3, the birthday joints. And then I love the Melo floors. And I remember they had the black and eggplant ones, and then the black and gold ones, which, of course, reminiscent of me.
They had the foam. They had the foam on the heel.
There you go. And now I'm about to say that me and my flight posit. So I'm just like, I had to have those. So, and again, wide foot, those were a wide shoe. So I remember those. But as far as my favorite Carmelo inspired, if you will, Jordan model, definitely that Knicks 1 colorway. I remember it was the first Saturday of 2013. So it was like my New Year's gift to myself, going right into the store, and they were sitting right there, and I was the only person there that morning to grab them. So this is before the one type and the one's crazy, but I was saying the color placement of this one is absolutely outstanding. I'm having, I think, the apple inside of the insole, and I could tell about as far as Melo welcoming him to, New York, and him all of a sudden being a Knick and having that shoe, and those with the orange laces, man, it was just phenomenal overall as far as just having that one in my hand and saying, man, back home, he balling, he healthy. And that was a peak time for me as far as my celebration of Carmelo and the kicks. And another shoe that comes to mind, because I'm a fool for red, were the 1.5s, I think the hoodie Melos that were all red, and, us in our gum soul. So I remember the gum being at the front of that. And also the all red All-Star Melo 7s as well. I always love those. Those are some of the kicks that come to mind from his line and from Jordan brand that I, off the top of my head, when I think of Melo in that order, I'm like, these are the kicks that I'm like, I had to have.
Nice. Yeah. Just to touch on one of them, you said the M4s, just because they had that foam posit on there, that, with the gold and then the purple, that was the whole DMV, homage, so I still have the eggplants, and then it has like a little, Baltimore map on there and everything like that because it's with the iridescent coat on there. But I'm just shouting that shoe out too, because it had one of the greatest accessories like all time, in my opinion, was the sock ankle brace compression that came with the shoe. And then the Jumpman was it changed colors per shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like I took those socks and like I played in those in so many different shoes, it wasn't even funny. Like just so I didn't have like the lace up McDavid braces, ankle braces, because you don't play in those, it'll make your ankles weak. But like the just the compression sleeve that was on there, it was hard to get in there at first, but once you broke in, like that was like, yeah, that was one of my top 5 accessories, just coming with a shoe I wanted to definitely make sure of that.
Let's not fail to mention the retail prices of Melo line was not outrageous either. It
was like 120 or something like that, and that, and like at the most, 125, 135. But yeah, I love the 1.5s and the 5.5, the first ones. That was around my era of working in the NBA and then getting straight into retail right after that. So that was like, I might have gotten the 1.5s when I was in New Orleans. I had to go back and check the receipt. But but I still at the tail end, there was still some promotions when I crossed over into retail at the end of that, where getting the extra little posters and random stuff that comes with the shoes that didn't come at the retail level. And I just remember like some of this stuff, like that the first shoe, it wasn't the most comfortable. It was bulky. It was kind of heavy, and then it had like the sweatband on the tongue. And I was like, that's, the first, that sounded like a young kid. He's like, yeah, put a sweatband on the tongue because I wear a headband. Like it served no purpose. I remember that making the shoes look dirty, you know what I'm saying, on other people, especially when you played in them outdoors and everything like that. But the 5.5, that was just the 5 was such a smooth silhouette, and then it was like, it was between the 5 and the 6, you know what I mean? So that's what made it like, ooh, these elements that came together. And there was like every color was just it, none of them failed. None of those colorways failed for the 5.5. And then that was again a time where from the hometown with Baltimore, and then Baltimore-based retailer that I was working for, we did some extra promotions that were regional. So there are things, just travel over to our social media page on IG or the YouTube channel, and you look back into some footage, that I shared on there, that I'll keep on there because not everyone got to see those things outside of these regions where we had an actual, again, the way that promos worked again, back in the day, there was no social media to share stuff like this. So it was a mixtape. And this was a real mixtape, through the record labels, and has real artists, on there, and and it has, I think it has like 15 tracks on there, you know what I mean? And, but then it has the whole fold out that just show you more about the shoe and everything like that in different angles. And then there's a storybook from beginning to end that just goes through just the storyline of the shoe. That was the beginning of the Be More campaign that Jordan was doing for the first couple rounds with Melo. Because, again, he was trying to make sure he stayed true to his roots. So, he had some appearances with Jim Boeheim, had Bernard King popped up in there too, you know what I'm saying? So just Jordan, when he does it, it's like those championship storylines, it's the people behind the man. Jordan Brand, they gave him his logo, and then he gets it like tattooed on his hand or whatever like that. It wasn't like AI rapping, but it looked like Melo. He donned the cover of the mixtape. You know what I mean? Like he was the artist. You know what I mean? But I always thought that was funny the way that was, because he had his logo iced out and everything like that. So and that was the beginning of Melo just being branded out there and with hip hop and everything like that. Later on he meets his future wife and mother of his child through DJ Clue, through more hip hop stuff, you know what I mean, to connect with Lala. So just like things like that, it's just that was rap and hip hop and basketball. You know what I'm saying? I think him and AI might have been probably, you can't just blame it all on AI. That might have been he might have had something to do with the curve of the dress code rule as well.
Definitely, no question.
That was the super big 5X, 6X
couldn't get any bigger. Couldn't get big enough.
Like everyone's suits, look at that draft, and then look at some of the award shows for like the first 2 or 3 years after that, like all the big suits that everybody was wearing.
Definitely.
Let alone, everything else was just cut big. So just really, Melo, he's just again, one of a kind, we could just talk all day, because then there's a whole nother, all these versions. You had mentioned Hoodie Melo, you know what I'm saying? What about, before we go, we got to
Olympic Melo.
Got to talk Olympic Melo.
Olympic Melo
is like infamous. That might be his greatest, even though he didn't win the NBA championship, but like how many Olympics that he went to, and the way that he was just bully balling everyone, like the top talent on the team, and it was like, no, Melo is the best. His game was just so suited to just bully everybody. Touch on the Olympic Melo real quick, though.
Man, you took the words right out of my mouth, because to me that was the transition of someone who was great that was becoming a Hall of Famer. And thank you again to Netflix for their Redeem team and how they just did that entire thing, because we were there, we lived it. But to tell the story the way they told it, from how we actually failed and so forth, I know it was more Kobe focused because of the tragedy of him, and RIP to Kobe, but you had to live to see that. And to be honest with you, and I'm going there right now, the transition of Kobe becoming this villain, not being liked, to the transition of him being a sweetheart again, being liked and so forth. People don't understand. It was the Melo cosign. Once he got on that dream team and him and LeBron became Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, but it was Melo that kind of co-signed Kobe to the street saying, yeah, this dude is cool and watch what we're going to do. When we got that gold medal, Kobe goes back to the status to where he was, to where things flipped for him. And I think Melo, honestly, very quietly just goes into the stratosphere of the significance, and like you mentioned before with dress and so forth, his cultural significance, not only to the game, but to the game itself. And him and Kobe were literally like this, man, as far as them being tight. And I think that no one kind of really respects how much Carmelo was a part of the transition of Kobe getting his PR back in shape, if you will, with all that was happening with him. But 3-time medalist, 2-time gold medalist. And you have to watch those games, see how intense those games were against a couple of teams in particular, whether it was Spain, whether it was so forth. When Melo locked in, he locked in. You're talking about a game face, and his post game, I remember it may have been Amar Stoudemire Shark that said that Melo, man, he like an ox out there. And I'm like, but that's a power forward. That is Stoudemire at his peak talking about how Carmelo Anthony is an ox. That was like,
yeah, I mean, because Melo, he was inside out, had the mid-range, was just crazy. And then the shorter three-point line was just, like, that's not even fair. He's going to Fisher Price hoop. But like Kobe, he said it himself, like as far as Carmelo being one of his, like top tough guards, just because he was just so physical. It was just like win, lose, or draw, he was going to take his pound of flesh that night, and it was just going to wear you over and over and over again. And he would just bang on you, you know what I mean? And Melo, like to this day, some of my workout routine, I really do like a little Melo. It's like this pivot, jab step pivot, and the way that you can just get off and get your shot off in so many different angles just by, it's not even the old man. It's just the fundamentals. He's always been fundamentally sound, and then like because Melo's like jab step, like look, let's pay attention to his game. It's like these little micro steps. That's why he was so efficient. He didn't have to be the fastest. He could just be the quickest first step, one dribble, and he would get to wherever he needed to go. From the 3-point line to the block. It's like he doesn't need more than 2 dribbles to do anything he wants to do. You know what I mean? And that's including the jab step, 1 dribble, then turn with the spin, you know what I'm saying? And then fade on him. And then he was just like, he had that Allen Houston, Ray Allen, like the way his footwork was when he jumps and the way that gooseneck follows, you know what I mean? And then you're always landing in the same spot. Like there was like never wasted energy in anything that he did. And I always like admired that. That's why I like incorporated some of that stuff into the stuff I even work out to this day. You know what I'm saying? Just because, yeah, I do got the old man game now, but it's just, you know what I mean? Like that stuff is super efficient, and that's how you just always stay a step ahead of somebody and get them off you, and it's just always cool to see him transition that on to his son Cayenne, because now he's doing his thing as a high school prep star, and coming up, he still got like 2 more years before he gets out, but he's already doing this thing and spurting up. So however tall he's gonna end up being, but yeah, just I think Melo's he's got it. May not have ended this career exactly the way that he wanted to, but I'm so happy that he got that second chance because there was a spurt where it was just like, why isn't he even on anybody's roster? And then came back with the Trailblazers, on that the 00 era, and then came down and tried to win one with LeBron and the Lakers. That one that one didn't work for a couple reasons. That wasn't his fault though. But yeah, I would have loved to see Melo get that ring, but Olympic Melo, and he won the national championship and went one and done. He was ready to stay. Coach Boeheim said, nah, what
Get
you
out of
doing?
here.
You gotta go. This is the peak. You gotta go. So all those people helped him make the right decisions. And I think first ballot
No question.
is on the way. So line them up. Because again, Basketball Hall of Fame is college and pros, and he checks all the boxes on both sides. You know what I mean? So definitely no brainer for the legacy of Carmelo Anthony.
And really quick, Shark, before we close out, I have to mention my Melo moment. Of course, you talk about the ninth all-time NBA scorer. He has plenty. But the fact when he came to DC, and it was the game that he was 1 point away from 50, and I believe it was 08. And we double and triple. I'm saying we, meaning as a Wizards fan. We double and triple teamed him at that last minute to avoid him getting 50 or 51. So he's the game. He ended with 49. And I think there's a moment when he walks off the court and one camera caught, at least one of our low cameras, that says, y'all Bamas. And I just thought that was just so DC, so DMV, so Baltimore. But we literally triple teamed him to avoid him having another 50-point game under his belt. And that's what I remember from that. But yeah, Melo, thank you for what you brought to the game. So much that you have done from a cultural significant standpoint that only true hoopers know about. You a hooper. Thank you, Carmelo. I'm looking forward to seeing you enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame. No question.
There you go. Another legacy is cemented. We know what you're getting when it comes to Melo. So stay mellow and do what you do. On to the next chapter. Producing, got the wines, got a whole bunch of stuff going on with the documentaries and famous nobodies with the brand, with the clothing. So just keep evolving. So for the podcast you cheer for, just give you some more clarity over popularity, and give you some sneaker business talk in there too. For the Soul Material Podcast, signing off is T Mark the Street Shark.
And your man, the OGEO. Peace to you.
Peace.